Good evening, fuckers, and welcome to the next Train Simulator Classic request video. This one is slightly different because after doing the video showing how to drive the Class 76, and it was still a route video, but it was effectively showing you how to drive that particular train. I came up with the idea of doing a second, and it was going to be the Class 73. I figured that's probably another train that people consider to be slightly complicated. I mean, it really isn't, but it has that reputation. And while doing a run in that, it dawned on me rather quickly that, at least being familiar with the Class 86 and 87 would help quite a bit as far as driving the 73. So I was left with a choice. Do I go on to do the Class 73 regardless, or do I do a video showing how to drive either the 86 or the 87? And I couldn't decide, so I put it to a vote on my posts section. And with 67% of the vote, the video for the Class 86 or 87 won out. So here we are. So for this one I am going to be taking a Class 87. The 86 drives exactly the same way. In fact, the differences as far as what you're doing in the cab are so small that they are really not worth even thinking about. I'll explain that when we when we're in the cab anyway. And as for the route, I've chosen West Coast Main Line North, so we are going to be starting in Glasgow Central Station. Our destination is Lockerbie, which is about 76 miles away. So it's not a short trip, but it should give us plenty of opportunities to show how to drive the Class 87 and 86, and also some of its more, shall we say, unique features, or at least things you have to consider with this thing. This route should work just fine for that. As far as everything else, springtime, rain, because I like rain, and we'll be starting at 1 PM. All pretty standard stuff for one that I had the options for. So let's get this underway. Now, I've noticed in the thumbnail that I've chosen the intercity liveried 87. However, that was purely for the thumbnail. I am actually going to be driving one in the BR Blue. There's one particular reason for that, which again I will explain that once we are in the cab. And here we are. So Lockerbie, 76.5 miles away. The ETA is 1 hour and 7 minutes from the moment we start. So here we are in our BR Blue Class 87, and we have, I can't remember now if it's 8 or 9 carriages. It is 9, so here we go. 9 carriages for an 87 is absolutely no problem whatsoever. Let's get the lights sorted out. That did not take long. Right, so before we get underway, those who have seen my videos will know that I am very reliant on the HUD for all of the info that I need with regarding to whatever train I'm driving and whatever route I'm doing. With the 86 and 87, you can't just rely on this. You do need to actually use some of the dials. Actually, it's not so much the dials, it's these three in particular that you need to pay attention to. So these two are ammeters. They will show you the needles here will rise as you are increasing power to the engines, and it is pretty self-explanatory stuff. You know, you'll be okay with the needles going into the yellow. You don't really want to do it, but you can get away with it. You certainly don't want them going into the red. As you add power, you know, these will go up, but then they start to drop back down again. So, you know, you'll quickly get a pretty good idea as to when it is safe to increase power or not. And this display here, although it doesn't actually tell you exact numbers, it's an indicator of what notch you're in. You've driven trains before in this game, you'll know that the vast majority of them will have, especially electric. The throttle has notches. It's usually anywhere between 4 and 7. The class 87 and 86 have rather more than that. And this is the only difference between driving a class 87 and 86. Class 87, these notches it's either 35 or 37. I can't remember exactly which, but it's around that sort of number. So once it's right up to the top here at 100%, you're getting full power. Yeah, you're in notch 37. The class 86 has 31 of these. So yeah, when you're up the top here, you know you are in notch 31. That is the only difference as far as driving the two locos. Everything else about this is exactly the same. So everything I've said about the 87 with regards to, you know, yeah, these ammeters and the notch display, it's all exactly the same in the 86. Now, I did also say that I chose the British Rail blue liveried 87 for a reason. If you're in the intercity liveried one, when you are moving the notch here, or moving the throttle, it is always showing you a percentage, just like it's a regular throttle. But this one, as you can see, it's showing the actual function that it's doing. So it's easier, for the sake of this video, to have this on display showing you what it's doing rather than just showing you a percentage. So that's why I went with this one. I mean, once you've you know, driven these locos a few times, you don't need to see, you know, what it is you're doing. You know exactly what it is. So then having like the percentage there is no big deal at all. Right, so let's get underway. Actually no, before we do that, let's actually talk a bit about the way that your throttle control works, because as you've seen, yeah, it's not showing say any sort of percentage. What it's actually showing you is the various functions that the throttle, which is actually called the tap changer, is actually doing. So when you have it down in what would be 0%, it's actually showing as off. Now this isn't really a misnomer at all. It genuinely is off. You've effectively switched off the power getting to the engine. Now we will eventually get to a part where this does become pretty important. So the next one along is run. So we have this section here which is down, run down and notch down. In the middle we have hold. Now if this was showing the percentage, this is 60%. And then at the far end we have the up section, and again notch and run. So if you have the tap changer in the hold position, it is not adding power to the engines, and it's not taking power away from it. So it's just leaving it as is. It's basically, well, it's not quite a coasting, but it's not changing the amount of power that's being sent to the wheels. Now if you again go to notch up, it increases the notch, and you'll be able to see on the display here it goes up by 1 each time, and that's increasing the number of amount of power going in the wheels. It's going to increase your acceleration. If you don't want to be doing it just, you know, 1 notch at a time, then you go to run, and it will just keep on doing it in sequence, up and up and up and up. You really do have to watch the ammeters though if you are going to do that. And then the down is, I mean, by now I'd imagine it's quite self-explanatory. So if you notch down the power, let's say it's in full power, so you're in notch 37, 1 notch down, it goes down to 36, another notch down to 35, you know. So it's reducing power that's going to the wheels. And then again, if you want to just continually have the power drop down, you put it into run down, and it will make its way down and down till you reach the sort of notch that you want it in, and then you can put it back into hold. Now off, as I say, that's a very different matter. We will certainly come to that though, because, well, it is going to crop up on this route. So, okay, with all that in mind, I think we can finally get underway. Actually, before that, we'll let anyone on board who's coming on board, and let anyone off. So yeah, there is certainly some activity going on around the carriages. So once they have closed, we can get underway. I think, yeah, those ones just closed there. So we are all set. Let's this has, once the brakes have fully come off. Right, so put the tap changer into the hold position, and now we can start to notch up. So that's 5 notches. You can see the ammeter is in the yellow. We don't want it to stay in there, so we'll let it drop down a bit. We also need to bear in mind the 15 mph limit around here. so if need be it is completely flat, but as we get to around 15 we'll run down and get the notches back to basically back to 0 again. Right, that's the whole notch down, so we're still accelerating but at a very, very slow rate. In fact, yeah, I have taken it right down to 0 again. So we have an increase coming up to 25 in just quarter of a mile. In less than half a mile we can go up to 30. In fact, we are now in an area where we can go up to 20, so we'll notch up a couple of times so we can slowly accelerate. In fact, we're not really accelerating, so here we go. So like I say, the 86 drives in exactly the same way. 86 is not quite as fast as the 87. The 87 is the more powerful of the two. So this train will do about 110 max speed. The 86 will do somewhere in the region of between 90 and 95. So I mean, the 86 is no slouch by any means. It's just not quite as powerful as the 87. Right, so we're now into a 25 mph section. And okay, so we've reached the 30 mph section. We just need the rest of the train to get through that. We have a 75 mph section coming along in less than half a mile. So we're now in the 30 mph section. Okay, so we're now into the 75 mph section of the line. We just need the rest of the train to get past that, and then we can really start to accelerate. There we go. Right, so we can start notching up quite a bit more. You see, because we have been moving a reasonable amount, all these notches that we're piling on, and we're only now just entering the yellow. They're like so many locos. In fact, let's face it, it's about all of them. You want to get this thing into full power as soon as you possibly can. quite stuttery around this section. It's not going to stay like this though, so we'll be alright. And an 80 mph section coming up in just over a mile and a half. It's only a 5 mph increase, but nevertheless it is still an increase. I'm not going to stop at this station. I will make one stop along the way. I don't yet know where it's going to be, but yeah, I think I'll wait till we're a bit further from Glasgow, so when these slowdowns come in they're not as catastrophic as they currently are. That is fucking annoying, to be honest. Okay, so we have a 90 mph speed limit coming up in 1.5 miles. We are now in an 80 mph section, so start to add a few more notches to improve the acceleration a bit more. So we're in the 90 section. Let the rest of the train, in fact we're already on this in the 90 mph part of the line, so let's start notching up some more. I'm not that far from being in full power now. Even though those stutters are extremely annoying, they're not quite as bad as they were now that we're leaving Glasgow behind. Now, alright. It wasn't intentional, but I have actually rather overdone my plan of trying to slow down. But we can actually make use of this, so I moved it down into the off position. Now off is quite an accurate term. It has switched off all the power here. And you can see that the marker showing the notches is going all the way down to the bottom, and when that thing has been switched off, you have to wait for the needle there to get right the way down to the bottom again before you can start adding power again. So in fact now, because we're still going at a decent speed, we can run up. You can see the needles coming back up again without it causing any major issues. So we are still accelerating, not at a particularly fast rate, but because we're in a 90 mph section, which is, you know, at least 20 mph lower than this thing can do at max, I don't really want to be, you know, absolutely hurtling along at full power, because, yeah, the line speed is basically going to stop us from doing that. However, we are now on a 1 in 135 climb, but we're still doing okay. We're still accelerating even on this. In fact, we have a speed reduction coming up in 1.5 miles to 80. So I'm going to start running down. In fact, we'll make a stop at Motherwell there. Power isn't all the way down to 0, so we do still have power here, but obviously I am going to need to start braking if we're going to stop at Motherwell here. Car at that level crossing, it really was sort of taking its life in its own hands. Right, let's run it right the way down to 0. There we go. I don't think all of the train is going to get into this platform, so let's let it run on a little bit. brakes really are taking a while to kick in there. Yeah, so there's our stop at Motherwell station. Let's just yeah, ease that racket for a little bit. Okay, everyone back on board. Okay, now you don't need to be particularly sharp-eyed, especially as I dare say I'll edit it to make it even more obvious that this is a second video. I figured that the PC could do with a reboot, so yeah, that's what I've done, in the hope that it will get this stuttering sorted out. So we are still in Motherwell, so let's get underway and start making our way to Lockerbie. Again, notching up from the start. I'll be glad when we get out of that section with a very loud echo. So the only sort of tricky bit with the Class 87 and 86 is getting it up to speed from standstill, because you really do have to do quite the balancing act between making sure that the power isn't going into the red and still being able to accelerate at a decent rate. So it is always tempting to just stick it into run up, but yeah, you do that for slightly too long and you enter a world of problems. But getting that balancing act right is difficult. If this was a career scenario, my leaving Motherwell there would have been considered painfully slow. And it's an issue that I have with the 86 and 87 every time. I'm always just far too slow, pulling out from a from standstill, pulling away from standstill, I should say. So we're not going to be stopping at Shieldmuir. In fact, Motherwell is likely to be the only stop that we will be making, so we're now carrying right the way to Lockerbie non-stop. So I mean, we're already doing over 50 mph, and yeah, as far as notches go, we're barely halfway. But we do have a 90 mph max speed reduction coming up in just over a mile. So and we have something else coming along that certainly does affect Class 87s and 86. The Wishaw South neutral section. Now, neutral sections are certainly necessary, but Class 86 and 87s really don't like them. So let's notch up some more and try and get the notches up as high as we can. If it means we're going to be speeding when we hit the neutral section, so be it. Now normally I would be preparing for that neutral section, but I'm not going to do it this time. We're just going to go straight through it, and I want you to pay close attention to what happens, especially the the meter showing what notch we're in. So I think we are going to be able to get notches not quite at maximum, but pretty close to it. So neutral section is coming up. We are about a quarter of a mile away. Okay, here we go. That's not it. This is the neutral section coming up here. Here we are. That was certainly not what I was expecting. It's as if the train has just gone straight through it and ignored it. So I'm unintentionally simulating it. When you go through a neutral section, power has been cut off completely from the entire train, albeit only for like 1 or 2 seconds, but it means that you have to wait for the notches to go all the way back down to the bottom, as if you've switched the thing off, before you can then start to apply power again. So it's effectively shuts your train down, and you need to start all over again. Now here it's actually not too much of an issue, because we're coming up to a 60 mph speed reduction, and then that speed limit is increasing in 10 mph increments, so we can actually once we hit the 60 mph section, which we are now in, so we can now start notching up again and get our speed back up as we are going through these sections here. We're also on a 1 in 100 uphill climb, so this is certainly going to impact on our acceleration here. So we now are able to do 70 mph max. At the moment we're not even accelerating yet, because the climb, which is now 1 in 140, so it's easing off, and now we are starting to accelerate. So I'll stop notching up now that they are in the yellow. And we are quite high up the there's the needle there, so certainly over halfway. But we can now do 90 mph top speed. So at the next neutral section, hopefully it will actually do something this time. Start notching up some more. Back into or just into the yellow. We are also pretty close to full power, so okay. So we're about to go thundering through a car loop. We'll take it into the yellow just because, yeah, we are now at full power. And we won't be able to leave it in full power because, yeah, it means that we will end up doing 110 or more, which is obviously a lot more than we want to go. So I've dropped it down 9 notches. Now, if the speed limit was 100, dropping it down 9 notches would be fine. It would keep us at about 99.7. But of course, the speed limit here is, is 95. Oh, we do have a 100 mph section just coming up. Well, it drops us down a fair few notches now, so yeah, we are now starting to lose a little speed, almost entirely because of the gradient we are on. We're on a 1 in 130, but the summit is coming up, so we may start picking up speed again once we reach the summit. And we will certainly start picking up speed as we start going down the other side. So, summit is reached. According to the G-force meter, I'm throwing the passengers around all over the place, but tough. So, we are actually still losing speed a bit, which I'm quite okay with. So we're into a 100 mph section. Let's run it up and get our speed back up to, or get the power back up to full power. There we go, we are at full power, and we're also very close we are very close to the 100 mph speed limit. I'm in fact going to start braking a bit to bring our speed down. So I've dropped us down 12 notches from full power. So we are still accelerating because, well, actually the downward gradient is now leveled. And now, even though it's it's just got a lot steeper, 1 in 299, so we are gaining speed again. So we'll drop it down another couple of notches. Okay, I'll drop it down 5 notches. We have a 95 mph section coming up here, followed by a 90. So we could certainly do with our speed dropping down a little faster than it actually is. In fact, I will use brakes to get us down to 90 mph for that second. There we go. But then we have, like, we've got neutral sections, we've got everything coming up here. Now the neutral section looks like it's this one, so a mile away, and then after that we have 125 mph max speed available. So let's see if this neutral section will have any effect on us once we've gone tearing through Carstairs station. Right, so neutral section there. Let's see if it does anything. I'm not going to prepare for it because I want to see if it will actually affect us first. Yeah, here it is. Again, we just went straight through it. So it would appear that the neutral sections on this route are not actually doing anything, which is annoying. So, okay, the next neutral section we come to, again, I'll treat it as if it, is a working one, and I'll show you what I do to prepare for the things. I think I've got time to heat up an ICOS. Now, like I said at the start of the video, this thing can certainly do 110. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we could actually get this to do certainly over 110, probably close to 125. And let's face it, we have the opportunity to find out. Let's take a look at some of the scenery, which we've not done much of on this route. Yeah, plenty of great scenery, and there's no denying it. This is a great looking loco. I really do like the 87s. I mean, the size of them, the power of the things, the speed that they can do. Yeah. 87 was I suppose is the right term. They're no longer running, but they were fantastic. So we're at 112. $114. 'This uphill gradient was slowing us down a bit. We are back at 112. We've got a downhill section coming up. It's not particularly steep, but it may help our acceleration. So we're on a 1 in 194 downhill gradient. We are at 116 mph. We're up to 117. Right, we've got 120 mph speed reduction coming up. It shouldn't affect us, but then again, we're not supposed to be doing 117, 118. So, I mean, it's only 2 mph more. Can we get a speeding error in this 120 mph section? We're at 119. We are absolutely throwing all the passengers all over the fucking place. We're on to an uphill section now. This is going to affect our acceleration a bit. We're at 120. Now, are we going to get a... Can we go fast enough to get a speeding... the fact that we're on an uphill section is probably going to hinder us a bit, but I mean, if we can get a speeding error on an uphill section, that will be quite something. We've got a 90 section, so we're doing 121. We should be getting a speeding thing now, but we're not. Lockerbie is 35 miles away. There we go. Speeding. Ah, shit, and I overdid my reaction there. All this sort of buffering and that buffeting that we're doing is because, yeah, we're going well over the speed limit that we should. But I accidentally put the thing into off, so I've got to wait for this to run down. Oh, we're well speeding, 111 in a 90 mph section. You can see here that the applying the brakes does also use power from the ammeter. So I think, yeah, we can start to increase power, and we can surely just run it all the way up to the top, because the rate we were going, I think we can do this. So we are picking up speed again. There we go. So we've managed to, okay, we've got it into the yellow, but nevertheless we were able to run it up from 0 to max in one go. So we're into a 105 section, and a 110 is coming up, just over 1.5 miles. we're at 100. And we've already picked up enormous amount of speeding things, so if we go over 105 briefly before we hit this 110 mph section, to be honest I couldn't give a monkey's toss. So we will be speeding, yeah we are speeding now, yeah, but this 110 mph section coming up, yeah, we are no longer speeding, but it's not going to be long before we are speeding again, so let's run it down a bit. We are on an uphill section actually, so we may not have to run it down too much. Seem to be holding fairly steady at 108, which is fine. Right, so we have another neutral section coming up. So what I normally do when I'm approaching a neutral section, you need to check what your which notch you're in. If you are quite high as we are now, you don't want to be waiting too long after you go through the neutral section, so I turn it off now before we get there. So the notches are now starting to come down, so that then by the time we actually go through the neutral section, the notches will already be down at 0 or very close to 0. So here it comes. Here it is. Right, so we've gone through it. So now we're through it, but our power was already at 0. So we can now immediately start putting the power back on again. Now if I had left it until after we'd gone through the neutral section, yeah, there's no way I'd be able to put the power on this early. Now obviously it does sort of rather depend on where the neutral section is, because if it's on, or you know, if it's just after like an uphill section like we are approaching here, then you're going to lose a lot more speed going on the uphill section with no power going to the motors. So in that instance you may want to just leave it until you are going through the neutral section. But if it's on a flat piece of ground, or if you're going downhill and you know there's a neutral section coming up, then once you are say about 0.8 away, turn the power off then, especially if you're doing, you know, 100 mph or more. So this 1 in 100 uphill section is certainly affecting our speed somewhat. Let's get a few notches up. We're at a 90 mph section, so we can't go too much faster. Ideally, I want us to be able to hold our speed as is. Yeah, we're still gaining speed. Okay, that looks like that's sorted it, but we have a downhill section coming up pretty soon. So that would certainly have an effect. Right, this downhill section looks really steep. It's 1 in 75. And we're going to need to do some controlled braking here. And I think we're going to need to run down as well. So the notches now, yeah, are very low, less than halfway up. We're still gaining speed though, but it is entirely because of this extremely steep slope we're on, 1 in 75. So now that our speed is 80 mph, we can let the speed build up a bit through basically through gravity. It's not going to take long for it to get us quite close to the 95 mph limit. We have an increase to 100 coming up. And pretty much at that speed increase, we will be 20 miles from Lockerbie. Let's get the gauges all back in view. Do a bit of braking just to, make sure we don't, I've raked up enough speeding errors already, so here we go. So yeah, we are 20 miles from Lockerbie and we are now in a 100 mph downhill section. And a 125 mph speed limit increase in about 1¼ miles. So with a 125 speed limit, we know we can certainly throw the train into full power. So we can, we can really start running up again. Well, now I can anyway. Yep, right, we're in full power. So 125 and we are speeding. Brakes are really not doing very much at all. that steep downward section was yeah, not doing us any favours. Start notching up again. I'm not going to put it in the full power, but if we can keep a steady 104, that is fine. Just lost a little speed there. We're not far from full power. And we are still on a downward slope. I mean, 1 in 200 is nothing compared to the 1 in 75 that we were on. So we have another neutral section coming up, and yeah, it's annoying that they are not doing anything. So let's run us up to full power again, or close to it. There we go, we are at full power, and now right off, so that this will probably still be running down as we go through the neutral section, but it won't be long after we are past it before we can then let it start running up again. So there we go, that's the neutral section. So we have lost some speed, but the downward slope has helped to reduce the amount of speed that, you know, we haven't lost as much speed as we could have done. So now we can start running up again. I'm not taking it up. Actually, yeah, let's take it up at full power. Lockerbie is about 10 miles away now. So we are at full power again. Hoping there will be no more neutral sections. Well, I mean, they've not done anything in this run, which is, yeah, annoying. So if any more come up, I'll just ignore them. Certainly if we had done the West Coast main line over Shat route, yeah, you can't ignore them then. Up to 114. Six miles from Lockerbie. think it's time to begin slowing down, as Lockerbie is now less than 4 miles away, so we can start to run the power down again. I haven't run it down completely, but I've got it relatively low. In fact, let's just run it down a bit more. Yeah, that'll do it. 2.5 miles now to go. Lockerbie will be showing up on the route here any second now. There it is. So we do need to start braking. Yeah, trying to bring our speed down from about 111. Half a mile, get some more speed off. Let's try and get our speed down to about 30, because we are approaching this at a rate, and yeah, the brakes took a while to really start kicking in. Now run the power right down. Power is at 0. We can just coast all the way. Brakes taking a long time to come in. There we go. There we are. That was Glasgow Central to Lockerbie via Motherwell in a class 87, and hopefully you've got at least now a half decent idea of how to drive it. So the 87 and the 86, they're not complicated trains to drive. They're not difficult trains to drive. They're just different to, like, you know, the standard you know, throttle control that you know, all the other electric locomotives have. But yeah, that was a good one. I did quite enjoy that. The only thing I wish it had done was, yeah, the neutral sections not doing anything. Yeah, I wish they had done. But I can't have anything, you know, can't have everything. So yeah, that is that route done. So if you have any Train Simulator Classic requests to make, then just click the old link in the description and it will take you to the video that shows all the routes and locomotive options available, and just bung your request in there. But for now, this one is done, so we'll see you on the next one.